Hey, I'm back in the studio, and I just watched the Shrek 5 trailer.
On February 27, 2025, Twitter had another thing binding them together aside from racism and their collective hate for women: the Shrek 5 trailer. Now, the reaction to this trailer could be summed up as scathing, no, childish. I would say even kind of overdramatic. Of course, they were lamenting over the addition of a new child character, that being Shrek and Fiona's teenage daughter, who's going to be played by Zendaya.
Legalize nuclear bombs.
And regardless whether or not people think DreamWorks is actively out to kill everyone's childhood, or whether or not this is a cheap cash grab, everybody was in agreement that the art style and animation looked frankly shitty. And can we just pivot to a side tangent really quick? I lose 5 years off of my lifespan every time someone mixes up art style for animation. Me, my ugly ass face. Art style. Me, moving. Animation. Glad we got that out of the way. Now that's $500 for the seminar, please. But in all seriousness, let's break down the logic and reasoning behind why people hate the Shrek 5 trailer so much. Maybe it's baseless hate and blind nostalgia, maybe it's Maybelline. Hi, I'm Vicky, and if this is your first time on my channel, this is where I love to talk about people who don't know I exist. I talk a lot about character designs, I even do media analysis now. I'm kind of pivoting towards that, so if that's the type of lunacy you're into, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. And if you're into seeing the behind the scenes process, getting access to the fully uncensored, uncircumcised version of my videos, check out my Patreon. For only $2 a month, you'll be able to get access to early videos as well as scripts. And if you don't, it's okay. I don't like ugly bitches with bad taste anyway. And now, finally, on with the video. Before we really get into the video, you're probably wondering why I sound like this. Well, it's because I'm incredibly stupid. About 2 weeks ago, my insurance finally approved some dental surgery I needed to get my wisdom teeth out. So then I decided to remove not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Which heavily increases your chances of getting an infection, which happened, which got to my throat and then my lungs. And I got bronchitis and then I got my period.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
But thankfully none of my teeth got infected. I just came back from the dentist. One of my teeth are infected.
Vicky.
Didn't pay now, he'll have to call you back!
You get the picture. I was f***ed from rectum to mouth. I couldn't sleep for the life of me. But after 6 days of steroids, I was finally able to sleep for more than 3 hours at a time. I had to re-record my audio about 3 times now because I tried recording some footage of me in person. But the stars didn't align and you hear more of the room than me. You can call me anything but inconsistent. So don't be me. Don't get all of your teeth removed and then be bedridden for about 2 weeks. It's not fun. But I can't tell you what to do. I mean, if you want to be a poor man's Aquafina, then be my guest.
Chickens are bitches, dude.
But that's enough for me. Let's hand the mic back to Healthy Vicky. But first, for the uninformed, Shrek is a mega successful billion-dollar movie franchise, religious experience, meme darling, sex icon, and just as a caterpillar becomes a cocoon before it does a butterfly, Shrek was shit that was once food. Based on the 1990 children's picture book by William Steig, Shrek is thoroughly anti-Disney through and through, while still operating within the framework of a children's fairy tale. So rather than focusing on the romantic adventures of a handsome prince or righteous knight, Shrek is a pustule on the face of the earth, regrettably discharged by even more hideous pustules. And this excerpt from the book really captures it all. Like, listen to this.
Oh my god! What is that?
His mother was ugly, and his father was ugly, but Shrek was uglier than the two of them put together. By the time he toddled, Shrek could spit flame a full 99 yards and vent smoke from either ear. With just a look, he cowed the reptiles in the swamp. Any snake dumb enough to bite him instantly got convulsions and died.
He's already dead.
And these unpleasant qualities were second only to his proclivity for being a hateful recluse. But somehow he goes on a grand adventure, fights a dragon, and he finds a princess who's somehow uglier than him, sweeps her off her feet, and then they live happily ever after. Now, while Shrek would be the prototypical wart-faced creature that is inevitably slain by the knight in shining armor, Shrek is the unconventional protagonist of our story. A monster of fairy tale yore, ogres are man-eating creatures with a preference for infant flesh. They're hideous, aberrant beings dedicated to the art of plaguing the nightmares of young children, and they typically have the single-minded goal of consuming endlessly and heedlessly. Therefore, it's pretty shocking that the book's main ethos focuses on self-love and acceptance, told through Shrek's struggles to navigate a world where he is the stuff of nightmares. And in surprising fashion, the 2001 movie's additions to the Shrek canon actually improves it. The shiny new coat of paint includes 2000s pop culture references, off-color humor that would completely go over kids' heads, and constant deconstructive parodies of popular fairy tale tropes. The film was a treasured rarity for its splendid CG at the time.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
Interestingly, in a world of witches, talking donkeys, and cross-dressing werewolves, Shrek is pretty grounded. Like, speciesism exists, and all men below 5'6" are evil.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
The essence of Shrek has always been found in the inversion of the classical structure of the fairy tale, and making the romantic spectacle and sincere doe-eyed gooiness into the punchline of the joke. Maybe the big bad wolf isn't a literal wolf in sheep's clothing trying to eat little white girls. Maybe he's just a really chill crossdresser. Maybe the real villain has always been the blonde-haired, blue-eyed poster boy of Aryan supremacy with mommy issues. Honestly, it bridges the gap very easily between children and adults, as Walt Disney once famously said. You're dead if you only aim for kids. Adults are only kids grown up anyway. And on May 16, 2001, DreamWorks put this theory to the test. Shrek's domestic gross was $268,200,241. International gross was $216,744,207, which, according to my source over at The Numbers, is quite good considering that the production budget was $50 million, meaning that the worldwide box office was able to make 9.9 times that of the production budget, which would then continue to be the trend for all subsequent titles, Shrek 2 earning over $441,550,292. And if you're watching this video but you somehow haven't seen Shrek 2, why? What are you doing here? Go watch it.
Catnip.
That's no mind.
And Shrek the Third would further continue this legacy of smashing profit margins, albeit to a less successful degree in comparison to Shrek 2, grossing over $322,719,944.
What's different from the other animated movie, you think?
Well, I think a better could tell you that there's nothing like any other animated movie. You know, just the look of the movie is just sort of all the newest and best that technology can do. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like this before, and it's a very irreverent movie, and it's very subversive, and so the tone of it's very different, very playful. And
now, not to take the wind out of little Jeff's sails here, but Shrek Forever After would end up not profiting as much as the other films. Now, to be fair, grossing over $238,736,787 is still a lot more than I can just shit out of my ass. And even though this is working a lot off of my own personal conjecture, I think this is a very good, tangible way of demonstrating Shrek's decline. For example, if we were to plot out the profits onto a graph, we can see that there is a gradual increase and then a decline after the release of Shrek Forever After. Now, as you probably know, box office performance isn't always indicative of the quality of the film. Yet somehow, something happened between the release of Shrek the Third and Shrek Forever After that caused people to just simply not really be interested in Shrek anymore. So then it brings into question, when did Shrek's reputation start to suffer so much that everyone dogpiled on the fifth entry's trailer? And because of our current AI scare, a lot of people have taken to describing Shrek 5's trailer as being AI generated. We'll get into that in a little bit, but in the meantime, let's examine a hypothesis on the reason why society fell out of love with Shrek. I want everyone here to keep in mind that the last entry in the franchise, Shrek Forever After, was released in 2010, and the more I think about how 2010 was 15 years ago, the more I want to embrace the forever sleep. Now, from my perspective as a creative, if I had an IP that was revolutionary and made a lot of innovations in the field of computer animation, I wouldn't just simply let it fall at the wayside. So whenever there has been a considerable amount of time that has passed between one entry and the next sequel, the sequel comes off a lot like the forgotten merchandise in the back room of the Macy's that's been left to collect dust for over a year and they decided to put it on clearance at the last minute to get a quick buck. So the timing of Shrek 5 gives birth to doubt because there isn't really any quote-unquote good reason for the movie's existence outside of an easy sequel cash grab. Good obviously being subjective. And in most cases, animated sequels are never that. They're oftentimes an inferior copy of the original. And I've noticed that all of these animated sequels share three common qualities. 1. Inferior animation and art direction. 2. Weak plot points that are a pale imitation of the original. And 3. New sequel-exclusive characters who hoard all of the original cast's screen time. No, I would prefer to not waste my time on the sibling of the previous antagonist. The first version was much better, thank you. No thank you, I would prefer to not watch a movie that looks like it was animated at 2 frames per second and held together by silly string and a single prayer. Now, back in my day, hell was also known as direct-to-VHS, but to the kids today, it's direct-to-streaming. Where the Shrek franchise really failed in the long run was the plot. And according to some reviews that I've scanned over the internet, it became sort of this regurgitating Ouroboros of mediocrity, shitting out the exact same jokes that are lampooning common fairy tale tropes, with an absolute litany of pop culture references. Listen man, if this shit wasn't clogging the bargain bin at Walmart, I wouldn't be so pissed off. But we do not live in a perfect world, I am still 5 foot, and in this reality, these sequels would rear their ugly heads and they would release about 1 to 2 years after the original film. It's a weird bit of necromancy because even though this project has met its natural end, it's still coming back and being revived over and over by these studios and the powers that may be just to turn a profit. And every time these shitcakes are released, my under-eye bags grow... Oh, my bad. Anyway, every time one of these shitcakes are released, my under-eye bags drop down to my chin. And to be quite honest with you guys, I don't think any other term better captures this sentiment than franchise fatigue. And according to this Variety article, the dirty secret of franchise fatigue can only last until the next bad sequel becomes a hit. The symptoms are as follows. It's blockbuster movie season, otherwise known as any given week of the year, and a handful of sequels, reboots, and tentpole smash wannabes have all come out and performed badly. And typically, franchise fatigue, for me, is like when you are given the exact same meal every single day. There's no variance. If we could compare movie slop to junk food, then franchise fatigue would be the overwhelming nausea that the audience feels after consuming the exact same meal over and over and over again with little to no adjustments. And I'm not going to waste your time here with an hour-and-a-half long diatribe about how franchise fatigue is ruining our current media landscape, but to give a face to the curse that each of these sequels bring with them. Like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish sounds like it would have had the same lukewarm negative reception, but its key to victory was telling a character-driven story that explored a surprisingly interesting side to the supernatural lore of Shrek, with visuals that are heavily inspired by Into the Spider-Verse. I never thought we'd see death personified in Shrek or Puss in Boots having a panic attack, but that's the beauty of a gift that you never knew you wanted. Jokes about fairy tale tropes are so last season when we could be talking about Puss's crippling fear of death and commitment. Not in that exact order. The audience didn't know this was what they wanted. And keep in mind, The Last Wish took over 11 years to release, having been trapped in development hell. Under normal circumstances, it was doomed to fail, or it was doomed to have middling reviews and reception, like the original Puss in Boots spin-off movie. The sheer and unexpected polish of The Last Wish was only achieved through countless hours of raw talent and tireless hard work. It's not just a good Shrek spin-off, it is a good movie. Now, Puss in Boots and The Last Wish, if you haven't seen it yet, which you should go see it, why the fuck are you even here? It's a movie that is surprisingly fun and jovial to an extent, and it didn't feel like some type of obligation that was handed down to them from some execs. It's why I believe that the issue with Shrek 5's trailer isn't just the fact that it's signaling a brand new Shrek movie in the year of our Lord 2025, but it's the fact that it's the most recent in a long series of failed animated sequels. Now, when I say failed, I don't mean a box office flop. Rather, I mean poor critical reception. Like, for example, audience members and critics alike can both agree that the movie isn't very good, and rather that it would fulfill its role of being doctor's office filler, or a movie that you would leave on in the background so that kids could leave their parents alone for once. And I believe this is the exact reason why so many people hated the Shrek 5 trailer. It's another recent example in a long line of movie drivel. And if we could just quickly take this as an opportunity to return to my list of common tropes in animated sequels, I can confidently say that this is not only a bit of foreshadowing, but I also think it's a really good laundry list to refer to when you want to capture what exactly it is people see or feel when they see trailers for not just Shrek 5, but any animated sequel. Which is where we have to ask ourselves another question. Why do so many people think that the trailer for Shrek 5 looks AI generated? And what does that say about the quality of the movie? Now, if I have done my job correctly and traumatized you enough, you likely know my opinion on AI art, if you can even call it that, so I won't take 13 hours out of your day. AI art is simply a chameleon, a ditto that latches its parasitic tendrils onto whatever it deems to be a polished golden goose. But just to clear up a couple of things, whenever I speak on the subject of AI, I'm referring to Stable Diffusion specifically. Stable Diffusion is a deep learning model, deep learning being a type of artificial intelligence that uses thousands of neural networks to mimic the complexities of the human brain. What this translates to is a type of artificial intelligence that pulls from multiple references to create something new, which is triggered by a user-written prompt. So if you want a hot anime girl to show off some honey glazed toes, then you type that into the text bar. And of course you would add some specifics like, I want a girl with brown hair, I want yellow eyes, I want tan skin, so on and so forth. And of course this is done to varying levels of success, but mostly done to abysmal failure. And as you can probably tell, both Disney Pixar and Studio Ghibli styles are oftentimes the most replicated. I don't think I need to explain how or why they're industry titans, but what we can dissect is the overt presence of Disney Pixar and Studio Ghibli's art style in almost every nook and cranny of AI art. Seeing as how Studio Ghibli and Disney Pixar's work is mainly what comes to mind when speaking on the topic of iconic animated work, it unfortunately makes the most sense for AI to do what parasites do best. What ends up being generated is what I like to call a poor facsimile, because it doesn't have the same intentional emotional depth like I have seen in two previous studios' art. If we were to break down Studio Ghibli and Disney Pixar's art style, we can reduce it to one word: soft. Since they're both studios whose main official demographic is children, all of their characters are assembled with circles, ovals, or curved line work to create a harmless and cute package. And even though I am ranting about how AI art is only good at stealing, it does have its own style. For one thing, the characters are almost always posed in like the stilted manner where it's either a 3/4 angle or a front-facing angle where we can clearly see the character's face, which is almost always rendered to perfection, like as though it has an Instagram filter, which oftentimes illuminates the character with a diffuse light source, creating the soft glow that softens the facial features of their subject. So literally, if you take all the most popular art styles on the internet, you basically get AI art, and it's wholly derivative, stilted, boring, and uninspired. To anyone with eyes, you'll be able to immediately tell that Shrek's early design, and yes, this includes the lost now found test footage, was meant to be somewhat crude. Quote unquote crude, I'm so sorry, I keep on saying quote unquote, meaning textured skin, messy eyebrows, prominent facial wrinkles like nasolabial folds and forehead lines, blemishes, uneven teeth, a bulbous nose with flared nostrils, and relatively small eyes. The average animated character, in contrast, looks like freshly sanded wood with a fresh lacquered finish, shiny, new, and smooth to the touch, in a perfectly symmetrical package. Which is why Shrek looks kind of freaky in Shrek 5. I feel like I'm looking more at a plastic model rather than Shrek. I kinda like how the original Shrek looked a little ugly. He looked kinda off. Because again, ogres are these man-eating creatures. They're not meant to be palatable and cute and approachable. I'm supposed to look at him and think of the reason why we have birth control. He is supposed to make me pro-choice more than I already am. And because Fiona and Shrek have a teenage daughter, obviously this is them set in the future. They're supposed to be older. But how is it that their skin looks more smooth in comparison to their younger counterparts? I mean, yeah, Shrek has more wrinkles. I can still see that he has a couple of blemishes, like these dark spots here, and he has these huge brown eyes with these super dilated pupils that look like something straight out of Disney Pixar. So again, I think the reason why people are calling Shrek 5's trailer AI generated is because Shrek just looks too much like the exact thing he was making fun of. But I will say this, his most identifiable features have still been carried over. Like, he still has the hairy eyebrows, he still has the big nose, the uneven teeth, the green antennas. And honestly, this just reminds me of all of those Disney filters that you see on Snapchat and TikTok. You know the one I'm talking about. The one that people use in order to make themselves look like a cartoon character, and they always find a way to fucking terrify me. Not because of the fact that it's being generated by a soulless corpse of a machine, but it's because of the fact that it just looks bad. Like, baby, why do you have eyes like the size of like your forehead? It's not a good look, honey. Maple's story is not meant to be translated to 3D. And yeah, I know I've been talking about Shrek, but that's only because he's the face of the franchise, and I think he's the one who's suffering the most from this curse. But that doesn't mean that everyone else is exempt from that. Especially this bitch who walks around like he has a 10-inch cock and the audacity of a Greek god. Actually, I can't really say shit because he did get to f a dragon. And this is going to sound so insane when I bring it up, but it's the eyes. It's the eyes that bother me the most about Donkey's Shrek 5 design. Donkey's original design in Shrek is chopped in its own way, but the eyes looked a little bit more human in order to anthropomorphize him. It's more almond-shaped than it is round in comparison to the new abomination that we see in Shrek 5's trailer. Now, a lot like Shrek's design, his eyes have become much more circular, which was also most likely done in order to make him look more cute, when in reality, Donkey's design works better the uglier he looks. I like that they kept his wiry, coarse, electrified hair and also his crooked teeth. It just doesn't mesh well when you give this otherwise ugly donkey desu brown eyes. Well, let's take a quick break from roasting the f*** out of this trailer really quick. I think out of everyone in the cast announcement trailer, Felicia, or Fiona and Shrek's daughter, probably suffers the least. I know, I can already hear the misappropriation of Gen Z slang by a couple of boomers who hadn't even spoken to a millennial below the age of 30.
Skinny legend, why are you doing this?
But stay with me. I like how Felicia wasn't designed to look like a conventionally attractive woman with green skin, otherwise known as lazy sexual dimorphism for fantasy races. The boomers at DreamWorks just pictured a rebellious teenager that they wanted to slap in the face and then morphed Felicia into one, piercings, makeup and all, which was probably done during her rebellious stage. I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be a point of contention within the plot of Shrek 5, where Felicia wants to grow up already. She thinks that she's mature enough to take on the real world, but of course in classic American dad sitcom fashion, Shrek is going to be reluctant to give his daughter any freedom, thinking that he has to protect and shelter her from the world. I don't really have so much of an issue with her design, I more so have an issue with her existence, because it doesn't bode well for the direction of Shrek 5's plot. We're probably going to be spending a lot of time on the drama between Shrek and Felicia, even though Shrek 2 has showed us exactly what goes into a good Shrek movie. And also, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But out of everybody in this cast, no one pisses me off as much as Fiona. Like, what happened to her face? I just want to know who snatched her lips. She looks like this toothless hag. I'm not saying that she was like this full-on like Love Island bombshell, but at least she had lips. Of the other variety. I know we were just talking about how I like how Shrek was designed to look intentionally ugly, or at least less pleasing. But in the case of Fiona, this doesn't look like it was done on purpose. This looks like a design oversight, because as we can see in her original design, she does have like a round face shape, she does have a big bulbous nose, and she does have big round eyes. Admittedly, they're smaller in comparison to Shrek, because again, she's smaller than Shrek overall. So despite my best efforts to have a good day, I decided to watch the Shrek 5 trailer, and this little detail ruined the trailer for me personally. Yes, her pupils look blown out. Yes, she has a weird Instagram filter on her skin that smooths out all of her wrinkles that gave her texture. But when you fuck up one of the most expressive features of the human face, I am not too confident for this movie, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not looking forward to it. Again, I'm not the demographic that this is geared towards. And even though this video would lead you to believe otherwise, I'm not a Shrek superfan. I just care about what children are consuming. And I care about good storytelling. And I care about good art. And honestly, this isn't it. I wasn't expecting to make this video, but I thought that it was a really good opportunity to talk about how AI is kind of used as a shorthand now for insulting something or calling something lower quality, and I think it deserves it. And if you happen to be interested in other shades of lunacy where I talk about people who don't know I exist, make sure to check out the rest of my channel. Like, comment, subscribe. You know that shit feeds the algorithm, it loves it. And let me know down below in the comments. Are you a Shrek fan? And if you're not a Shrek fan, why? If you are a Shrek fan, why? Is Shrek your husbando? And also, are you looking forward to Shrek 5? Yes or no? No matter how you answer, tell me why down below. I've been me, Vicky, and that's it. See ya.